Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back. How's everyone feeling today? Today we'll be focusing on a social studies lesson, which is Native Americans' contributions. So before we start, I'd like to make a little introduction about Native Americans. As the first inhabitants of North America, Native Americans discovered how to live off the land. Many tribes domesticated edible plants, raised animals, and discovered natural medicine. Native American innovation in areas such as mathematics and government greatly influenced other cultures in Europe and Latin America. Now that we know a little bit about Native Americans, we love to start with how did Native American culture influence and contribute to the development of New York State and the United States? Today's lesson objective will be how can you analyze a variety of sources and explain how the language and culture of Native American nations that have existed in North America for centuries have contributed to the world we live in today. As you can see, I mentioned the word contribute. So, what do we mean by the word contribute? What is the meaning of the word contribute? When we contribute to something, we often say or do things to make it more successful. Let's try this word with a question. How did I contribute to my family during COVID-19? The way that I contributed to my family is that we try to stay 6 feet apart from each other and we try to take care of each other as much as possible as we could. Also, we'll now read and listen to do a variety of sources about the contribution of Native Americans in New York and other areas of the United States. As I can show you, I have a couple of slides, and one of them is the slide for sports contribution of lacrosse, which was back then, and the lacrosse game today. And the other one that I found interesting was lacrosse game circa around 1846 through 1850, which is painting entitled Ball Play of the Cacao by George Catlin. Let's talk about a little bit lacrosse. What is the lacrosse game? Today, lacrosse is an international team sport played completely all over the world. This modern game originated with the Haudenosaunee. For 100 years, explorers to Haudenosaunee territory saw the game of lacrosse being played. The French Jesuits called the game lacrosse because it was played with a long stick, which they called a crosse. Among the Haudenosaunee, the game is called Tewaaraton, which means they bump hymns. In lacrosse, a player must catch, carry, and pass a ball using a lacrosse stick, a long stick with a net at one end. Historically, Haudenosaunee people played lacrosse on a field that would be as short as 100 yards or as long as 2 miles. We ask a question, as we can, ask a question, what do you think, why is the sport of lacrosse important to the Haudenosaunee people? How did the Haudenosaunee people contribute to the popularity of lacrosse? So since we're remote, and we don't have, I wish, could be in person, so we can, distribute a little bit more materials, resources, so the student, you guys can have an idea what the lacrosse or, the games or, Haudenosaunee people or, why the sport of lacrosse is very important. Based on little research that I made, I found that lacrosse is a spiritual game played centuries ago for recreation or political reason. For the Haudenosaunee, the people of the Iroquois Confederacy, lacrosse still inspires cultural passion and community healing. The game, we feel, was a creator's gift to his people, remains a source of pride for those who play the game today. For the answer number 2, lacrosse was sometimes played to resolve disputes and get rid of bad feelings between clans and nations within the Haudenosaunee. It was and still is played to bring families, communities, and nations together. So, also, based on the little research that I found, is that I can show you a little picture that it says photograph of Navajo Indian coat talkers, and is by Henry Bake and George Kirk. And this was on December 1943. During World War I and World War II, hundreds of American Indians joined the United States Armed Forces and used forces from their traditional tribal languages and weapons. The United States military asked them to develop secret battle communications based on their languages. And America's enemy never disciplined, which is deciphered, which is another word for figured out. The coded messages they sent, called talkers, as they came to be known after World War II. Are 20th century American Indians, warriors and heroes who significantly aided the victories of the United States and its allies. So as we know, for those who are not sure about what World War and World War II happened and what year it happened, I can show you a little picture. We know that World War I happened between 1914 and 1918. World War II happened between 1939 and 1945. Now, for example, based on what we read, we can say, how was the job of the code talker dangerous? So the irony of being asked to use their native languages to fight on behalf of America, was not least on code talkers, many of whom had been forced to attend government or religious-run boarding schools that tried to assimilate native peoples and would punish students for speaking in their traditional language. And another question, why was the job of the code talker important? Code talkers transmitted messages over military telephone or radio